Hey y'all, it's entry number 5 of this offseason series where we discuss a different player's fantasy value each day as a group. We are another day closer to the start of the 2022 NFL season. Each day we'll drop a name, go through some positives and some concerns in their fantasy profile, and then I'll give my personal opinion at the end. Today's discussion is on Justin Fields, quarterback, Chicago Bears. We'll start with some of the positives with Justin Fields' fantasy profile. Rushing upside. The biggest draw of Justin Fields' fantasy profile is his rushing upside. During the 2021 NFL season, Fields totaled 72 carries, 420 rushing yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns on the year. On a per-game average, this is 6 carries for 35 rushing yards and 0.17 rushing touchdowns per game. There are countless articles and pieces of fantasy content on the value of running quarterbacks. So, Fields having that upside and potential to be one of the best running quarterbacks in the league makes him a much more intriguing buy. The next positive is the new offensive play caller for the Bears in 2022. The Chicago Bears will have a new offensive play caller in 2022 as the team overhauls its coaching staff. Matt Nagy and Bill Lazor are gone, and the team hired former Packers quarterbacks coach Luke Getsy to serve as the team's new offensive coordinator and play caller. Getsy has yet to call plays at the NFL level, but he did spend 3 years as an offensive coordinator at the college level for Indiana and Pennsylvania from 2011 to 2012 and Mississippi State in 2018, where his teams were generally pretty run-heavy. There's a decent chance he uses Fields as more of a game manager this year, but the bottom line is that the offense needed a change, and Getsy should be able to build an offense more to Fields' strengths and help Fields limit his mistakes more in 2022. 2022 job security. The Chicago Bears no longer have Andy Dalton and Nick Foles on the roster, with Trevor Siemian and Nathan Peterman serving as the team's backup quarterbacks in 2022. Siemian and Peterman have a lot less on their resume than Dalton or Nick Foles, so there's zero chance that Fields get benched this year with these two quarterbacks behind him on the roster. As long as he's healthy, you can count on him starting every game for the Bears in 2022. Moving on to the concerns with Justin Fields. Passing struggles in 2021. As a passer, Justin Fields really struggled during the 2021 NFL season, completing just 159 passes on 270 passing attempts for 1,870 passing yards, and he threw more interceptions than touchdowns over the course of his 12 games. Fields barely got any fantasy production out of his passing abilities. So, if he doesn't improve as a passer during the 2022 NFL season, it's going to be hard to trust him in your fantasy leagues week to week. The second concern I have with Justin Fields' fantasy profile is that he gets hit and sacked a lot. During the 2021 NFL season, Justin Fields got sacked at the highest rate in the NFL, posting an 11.8 sack rate according to Pro Football Reference. It would be easy to attribute this solely to the offensive line play, which admittedly was pretty bad. But because the other Bears quarterbacks who also started games for the team last season, Andy Dalton and Nick Foles, weren't sacked at quite this rate when they were playing, it's clear that at least a little bit of this fell on Fields and his inability to recognize where the blitz and pressure was coming from. If the Bears' offensive line doesn't perform, and Fields continues to struggle to recognize where the blitz and pressure was coming from, it's going to be another rough season for Fields where he gets hit frequently, which raises the potential for injury and missing games. The third major concern I have with Justin Fields' fantasy profile is his subpar offense and supporting cast. The Chicago Bears don't have the most talented offense in the NFL, as the team ranked 27th in points for with 18.3 points per game last year according to Pro Football Reference. Their offensive weapons are looking average at best going into the 2021 NFL season, with running back David Montgomery and wide receiver Darnell Mooney looking to be the primary playmakers on the team going into the 2022 NFL season. In addition, last year their offensive line was a little below average. While the line should be a little different as they only bring back 3 of their 5 starters from 2021, Cody Whitehair, Sam Mustipher, and Larry Borom, it's likely that they still have a ways to go until they are an above average unit. Having a subpar supporting cast on paper could make Fields' job a little more difficult relative to other NFL starting quarterbacks. Some additional thoughts and info on Justin Fields. Justin Fields finished as QB 31 in total fantasy points during the 2021 NFL season, scoring 136.9 fantasy points or 11.4 fantasy points per game in standard scoring during the 2021 NFL season. College production. Justin Fields completed 68.4% of his passing attempts during his college career, including 70.2% of them for Ohio State in 2020. So, he's clearly shown some passing accuracy in the past. He was also a pretty solid runner in his college career, taking 260 carries for 1,133 rushing yards and 19 rushing touchdowns over the course of 34 games. Personal opinion. Justin Fields is going off the board as QB 19 on ESPN, about pick 165 overall, and QB 22 on Yahoo, about pick 129 overall. I'm not sure I'm sold on Justin Fields as a real-life NFL starting quarterback long-term, but it's hard to ignore that he has a good amount of fantasy upside if he can at least become serviceable as a passer. At his current draft range, he's a pretty good late-round QB pick for your league because he's got a good amount of rushing upside, and if he doesn't pan out, you can just cut him and there's not a lot lost since you only used a late-round pick on him. For each of these entries, we include a link to a charitable cause or organization. A big story prior to the 2021 NFL Draft was Justin Fields revealing that he has epilepsy. Because of this entry will include a link to the Epilepsy Foundation. And that's all for today. If you have a player that you'd like to see covered in this video format of the A Player a Day series, drop a comment below. Thank you, and have a great day.